Mark Grayson, a seasoned Secret Service agent, and Rachel Carter, a diligent congressional secretary, seemed to have nothing in common until their lifeless bodies were discovered together in a luxury hotel room, sparking a chain of events that uncovered a web of corruption, espionage, and betrayal far darker than anyone could imagine. In the early hours of a crisp autumn morning, two lifeless bodies were discovered in a high-end hotel room in the heart of Washington, D.C. The victims were identified as Mark Grayson, a seasoned Secret Service agent with an impeccable record, and Rachel Carter, a secretary to a prominent senator. Both had checked into the hotel separately for official business, but their sudden and mysterious deaths linked them in a way that no one could have anticipated. The scene was unusual, even for experienced detectives. Mark Grayson was found seated upright in a chair near the small table in the suite. His badge and firearm were neatly placed in front of him, almost ceremonially. His expression was neutral, almost calm, as though he had simply drifted off to sleep. Rachel Carter lay fully dressed on the bed, her arms resting at her sides, her face peaceful yet unnervingly still. Her belongings, a small purse, a smartphone, and a notebook were neatly arranged on the nightstand. Nothing appeared out of place, and yet the air in the room felt heavy with unanswered questions. The initial autopsy provided little clarity. There were no visible injuries on either body, no signs of trauma, and no indications of a struggle. The toxicology report offered no immediate answers either. Common substances such as drugs, alcohol, or known poisons were not detected in their systems. The time of death for both was determined to be within minutes of each other, sometime after midnight. Hotel staff reported no unusual activity. Security footage revealed that both Grayson and Carter had entered the room at different times during the evening. Grayson had arrived first, shortly after 8 p.m., appearing composed and purposeful. Carter followed just before 9 p.m., her demeanor equally calm. Neither appeared distressed or in a hurry, and there was no sign of anyone else entering or exiting the room afterward. Yet by morning both were dead. News of the death spread quickly, capturing the attention of the public and the media. The involvement of a Secret Service agent alone was enough to spark intrigue, but the presence of a congressional secretary added a layer of complexity. Speculation about their relationship ran wild. Were they strangers? Colleagues? Something more? Law enforcement maintained a tight-lipped stance, offering only basic details in their initial statement. The mysterious circumstances surrounding the deaths left investigators scrambling for leads. The hotel room was meticulously clean, almost unnervingly so. Every surface was wiped down, leaving no fingerprints except those belonging to Grayson and Carter. Even the usual signs of life, a half-empty glass of water, a discarded receipt, a hastily written note, were conspicuously absent. In the days following the discovery, conspiracy theories began to circulate. Some speculated about a clandestine affair gone wrong. Others believed the deaths were linked to a high-stakes political scandal. The lack of answers only fueled the public's imagination, turning the case into a national obsession. As investigators dug deeper, they would uncover details that raised even more questions, thrusting the story into an even darker and more puzzling narrative. As investigators delved deeper into the lives of Mark Grayson and Rachel Carter, their initial assumptions began to unravel. Both individuals, though seemingly unrelated, shared a connection that pointed to a more intricate story beneath the surface. What had initially appeared to be a tragic coincidence now hinted at a deliberate and calculated series of events. Mark Grayson was a model Secret Service agent, a man with an unblemished record and a reputation for being both disciplined and loyal. For over a decade, he had protected some of the nation's most powerful figures, navigating the shadowy corridors of power with steadfast resolve. But in the months leading up to his death, subtle changes in his behavior had gone unnoticed by those around him. He had started working late hours, often excusing himself from personal gatherings, citing important tasks. Friends later described him as unusually quiet, almost preoccupied, but chalked it up to the pressures of his demanding job. Rachel Carter was equally enigmatic. As a secretary to a well-known senator, she was respected for her organizational skills and discretion. Behind her polished professional exterior, however, she harbored secrets. A review of her communications revealed a pattern of encrypted emails and discreet meetings with individuals outside her usual social and professional circles. Carter had been accessing sensitive files on her office computer, files unrelated to her assigned duties. What those files contained was unclear, but their discovery suggested she was involved in something far beyond her role as a secretary. The first significant breakthrough came when investigators found a burner phone among Carter's belongings. Its contents painted a startling picture. She and Grayson had been in contact for several months, communicating through encrypted messages. At first glance, their exchanges appeared innocuous, discussing vague topics like schedules and upcoming tasks, but some messages hinted at something far more clandestine. Phrases like "the package is secure and we have to move before they do" suggested a shared mission, though the exact nature of their collaboration remained a mystery. A digital forensics team attempted to trace the origins of the encrypted communication. The messages had been routed through multiple servers, a tactic often employed by those trying to avoid detection. This level of sophistication pointed to two possibilities: either Grayson and Carter were working with someone highly skilled, or they were trying to evade someone equally capable. Simultaneously, investigators unearthed inconsistencies in Carter's recent activities. Surveillance footage revealed her meeting with an unidentified individual in a secluded park days before her death. The interaction lasted only a few minutes, but it was enough to raise suspicion. The man was later identified as a former intelligence contractor with ties to a classified program, though his involvement in the case was unclear. As these threads began to intertwine, a clearer but more alarming picture emerged. Grayson and Carter weren't just two professionals who had crossed paths by chance. They were connected through a dangerous web of secrets, one that potentially involved high-level corruption and national security. Whatever they had uncovered, it was something powerful enough to cost them their lives. Investigators couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The investigation into the mysterious deaths of Mark Grayson and Rachel Carter deepened as authorities began piecing together fragments of evidence that hinted at a larger, more ominous conspiracy. Their encrypted communications, Rachel's stolen files, and Grayson's recent uncharacteristic behavior pointed to a dangerous secret they had uncovered, one that seemed to stretch far beyond their respective roles. One of the most perplexing discoveries came from Carter's stolen documents. Hidden among innocuous scheduling records and innocuous memos were references to a classified operation known only by the codename Nightfall. The documents suggested that Nightfall involved unauthorized surveillance of high-ranking officials, including members of Congress and international diplomats. Even more alarming, the operation appeared to have been used for blackmail, with evidence of financial and personal misconduct kept as leverage against powerful individuals. Authorities traced the files to a secured database accessible only to those with the highest levels of clearance. Carter should not have had access to such sensitive information, yet she had somehow obtained it. Investigators speculated that she had used her position as a secretary to exploit security loopholes, pulling the data piece by piece over several months. Grayson's involvement became clearer. His Secret Service credentials likely allowed him to verify and contextualize the information Carter uncovered. Together, they had planned to expose the operation, but their plans were cut short. As these revelations surfaced, strange details about the night of their deaths emerged. Hotel staff reported an unexplained power outage that occurred between 11:45 p.m. and midnight, affecting only the floor where their room was located. Surveillance cameras in the hallway glitched during the same time frame, leaving a gap in the footage. Analysis of the hotel's air conditioning system revealed traces of an unidentified compound one that could have been used to incapacitate or kill the victims without leaving a trace in their bodies. Adding to the intrigue, both Grayson and Carter had reported feeling uneasy in the days leading up to their deaths. Carter had told a friend she believed she was being followed, though she dismissed it as paranoia. Grayson had recently installed additional security measures in his home, a move that was uncharacteristic for someone so confident in his own abilities. These details suggested they knew they were in danger, but perhaps underestimated the extent of the threat. As law enforcement agencies continued to investigate, they encountered an unusual level of resistance. Key witnesses became uncooperative, evidence went missing, and requests for information were met with bureaucratic delays. It became increasingly clear that someone with significant influence was working to obstruct the investigation. Public speculation grew wild as details leaked to the press. Some believed Grayson and Carter had stumbled upon a rogue intelligence operation, while others theorized foreign involvement. A smaller but vocal group insisted that the entire narrative was fabricated, designed to distract from an even larger scandal. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: Grayson and Carter had uncovered something that powerful people wanted to remain hidden, and they had paid the ultimate price. As the investigation into the deaths of Mark Grayson and Rachel Carter gained momentum, the case became increasingly murky. Each new revelation seemed to raise more questions than answers. Authorities were beginning to suspect that the conspiracy they had stumbled upon was far larger and more complex than initially thought. The codenamed Nightfall now loomed ominously over the investigation, representing a tangled web of secrets, betrayals, and hidden agendas. Investigators focusing on Nightfall began to uncover evidence of a covert program that operated entirely off the books. It wasn't listed in official records, nor was it funded through traditional government channels. Instead, it appeared to be financed through a network of shadowy shell companies linked to private contractors and foreign entities. The deeper investigators dug, the more resistance they encountered. Files vanished from secure servers, witnesses went missing, and high-ranking officials suddenly clammed up when questioned about the operation. The whistleblower who initially provided information about Nightfall became a critical, though elusive, figure in the investigation, known only by the pseudonym Cypher. This individual had worked on the program's technical aspects and claimed it was designed to monitor and manipulate influential figures. Cypher alleged that Grayson and Carter had uncovered damning evidence implicating not only politicians but also military and corporate leaders. However, before law enforcement could secure an interview with Cypher, they disappeared. Their last known communication hinted at imminent danger, stating, "They know I've talked. I don't have much time." Simultaneously, a forensic analysis of the burner phone found in Carter's possession uncovered encrypted files that confirmed her and Grayson's suspicions. Among the files were detailed surveillance reports on prominent officials, transcripts of wiretapped conversations, and records of offshore transactions tied to blackmail payments. One particularly alarming document implicated a high-ranking senator in orchestrating bribes to influence defense contracts, revealing the depths of corruption Nightfall had enabled. The events surrounding Grayson and Carter's deaths also began to appear more orchestrated. Investigators discovered that the unregistered guest seen entering the hotel on the night of their deaths was a professional cleaner with ties to clandestine operations. This individual's role was to eliminate evidence and ensure plausible deniability for their employers. Hotel staff later admitted under pressure that they had been instructed by an anonymous authority to stay away from Grayson and Carter's suite that night. As law enforcement pursued these leads, they encountered an unexpected complication: their own ranks were compromised. Anonymous tips warned of double agents working within the investigation team, feeding information back to those responsible for Nightfall. This internal sabotage slowed progress, forcing investigators to work in secrecy. The growing public interest in the case became both a blessing and a curse. Media outlets pursued every lead, but misinformation and sensationalism muddied the waters. Activists and conspiracy theorists demanded transparency, but those in power seemed determined to keep the truth buried. Despite mounting evidence, it became increasingly clear that Grayson and Carter's deaths were not random or accidental. They had uncovered something too dangerous to ignore, and someone had ensured they would never live to expose it. Months after the deaths of Mark Grayson and Rachel Carter, the investigation officially came to a close. The official report listed the cause of death as undetermined with insufficient evidence to pursue criminal charges or name suspects. The findings were vague, unsatisfying, and left the public with more questions than answers. For those close to the case, however, the closure felt more like an erasure, a deliberate effort to bury the truth beneath layers of secrecy. Despite the case being declared inactive, independent investigators and journalists continued to dig. Among them was a seasoned reporter who had been following the story from the beginning. Through leaked documents and anonymous tips, the reporter pieced together a damning timeline of events that shed light on what had transpired. Grayson and Carter had not merely stumbled into a conspiracy, they had actively pursued it, fully aware of the risks. Their communications revealed a deliberate effort to expose Nightfall, a decision that put them directly in the crosshairs of those who operated in the shadows. The stolen files that Rachel Carter had obtained were far more explosive than anyone had anticipated. Beyond implicating high-ranking officials, the documents included blueprints for a covert network designed to influence global politics. Nightfall had been used to rig elections, sabotage rivals, and secure lucrative contracts for private interests. Grayson, leveraging his access to secure government channels, had verified the authenticity of the information, confirming their worst fears. Together, they had been planning to release the findings to an investigative journalist, but their deaths stopped them before they could. Further complicating matters, it was revealed that Grayson and Carter had attempted to secure protection for themselves in the weeks leading up to their deaths. Grayson had approached a former colleague for help, but his request had been intercepted. The colleague, fearing for their own safety, later admitted they were too terrified to intervene. Carter, on the other hand, had left a series of encrypted messages to an unnamed contact, urging them to finish what we started if something happened to her. Uncovered evidence also implicated powerful corporate entities that stood to lose millions if Nightfall were exposed. A private intelligence firm tied to the program was found to have links to contractors capable of covert eliminations. The same firm had been flagged in international investigations for its role in political destabilization efforts. These revelations painted a chilling picture of the lengths to which those involved were willing to go to protect their interests. By the time these details surfaced, it was too late to act. Key witnesses had disappeared, records had been destroyed, and the trail had gone cold. The whistleblower known as Cypher was presumed dead, and the journalist whom Grayson and Carter had contacted had gone into hiding, fearing retribution. Grayson and Carter's story became a cautionary tale of bravery in the face of insurmountable odds. While their deaths silenced them, the fragments of truth they left behind inspired others to keep searching for answers. Their legacy was one of sacrifice, a stark reminder of the cost of challenging the powerful and the enduring shadow of secrets yet to be revealed.